This is a recorded version. New questions can't be taken. If you want to ask the question to the panelist, please join the live session every Saturday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York time, or 4:30 p.m. IST India time.
VYGOS is Vihangam Yoga Global Online Satsang, scheduled every Sunday AM Indian Standard Time. Those who would miss to attend the session can listen to the broadcast of replay on Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. The aim of this forum is to give the entire globe an opportunity to learn the ancient science of meditation and benefit from this pious service inspired by Sadguru Sadaval Dev Ji Maharaj, the pioneer of Vihangam Yoga. If you are interested in learning the technique or want to conduct a program at your place, and for any inquiries related to it, please feel free to write to us at info@vihangamyog.org.
Yes, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Vihangam Yoga Global Online Satsang. Yet again, we, with much excitement, are bringing to you another week of reflection, explanation, and thoughts on a deep spiritual topic. For those of us joining us for the first time, welcome to the platform. We're so honored to have you here. For those of you who have returned once again, thank you again for your ongoing support. Today, equipped with our global panel once again, we'll be tackling a topic which we all reflect on at some point in our lives in a modern world which has become very hypermechanic, fast-paced, and difficult to manage. We'll be joined today by Vijayji from the US, Priyanka Prakashji from Switzerland, Sankalpji from India, Hemantji from India, and I myself am Abhinavji, joining from Australia. For each and every one of us, we sometimes find it difficult to achieve balance in our lives. Often reflecting on this, we realize we may have taken on a bit too much, or maybe we've overcommitted ourselves. This problem of spreading ourselves too thin is one which we all inevitably experience as we go through the different events of our lives. The question becomes, how may we best manage expectations? Not only those expectations which others have of us, but what about those which we have of others? Today we'll be diving into this topic, equipped by a panel which I'm honored to bring to you today. Before we begin our journey, we first take a stop to the welcoming prayers, the Swagat Gan and Mangal Gan. These prayers are offered in the feet of the Master of Spirituality. Once we've aligned on these prayers and the feeling which this prayer brings to us, we welcome the Master, and then we're ready to dive further into this topic. I'll now request the recording to be played, and then we may proceed further through this journey.
आज स्वागत नित्य गुरुवर संत शुभागम आइए, अध्यात्म विद्या दिव्य ज्योति सोमरस बरसाइए। दोष दुर्गुण दूर करके शुद्ध हंस बनाइए, भेद गम गति ज्ञान गर्जन शक्ति द्वार हटाइए। खुले द्वारा शब्द सागर भक्त जन अनहवाइए, जन सदा फल विश्व शिक्षक शान आन बचाइए, शान आन बचाइए। विश्व शांति नाम मंगल परम गुरु को ध्याइए, वर्ग द्वंद्व शांति दूर कर भाव भेद मिटाइए। सार्वभौम समष्टि सत्ता त्यात्मराज बनाइए, वेश भाषा भाव जगमय ज्ञान पर दर्शाइए। समृद्धि सुख शांति धरातल स्वर्ग भूमि बनाइए, विश्व शिक्षक जन सदा फल नीति स्वर अपनाइए, नीति स्वर अपनाइए।
Thank you for that beautiful composition. As I mentioned, this is a prayer offered in the feet of the Master of Spirituality. Now that we have welcomed him, we're ready to dive into the topic of the day. As always, if you have any questions or thoughts to share, we have two avenues available: Slido, the URL which is coming up on the screen just now, and WhatsApp, where you may send a message and we will pick them up and address them later in our session. Just to clarify, we started with the Swagatha Mangalgan. We'll now be moving towards the Swarved. After that, we'll be moving towards the main speech of the day by Priyanka ji. We'll then be joined by Sankalp ji, who will be sharing a bhajan. And then we'll go towards the Q&A, Shanti Part, and the closing. So we now are ready to dive further into the topic via the Swarved recitation. The Swarved is a crystallization of the divine experiences which Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj had amidst his spiritual journey. It is a set of 4,000 verses covering a vast variety of spiritual topics. As we dive into any spiritual journey, we thus find it very important to first understand baseline our understanding of the beautiful, untouched experiences and verses of the Swarved. I'd now like to request VAG from the US to present to us some verses from the Swarved, after which we'll proceed towards the main speech of the day.
Thank you, Abhinavji. Jai Sadgudev, everybody. This is Vijay, joining from New Jersey, USA. My son Shashwat is little over 2.5 years old. You know, he still cries in the morning when he wakes up not finding his mother by his side. However, close to 7.5, my daughter Anvisha does not expect her mom to be her side anymore. The question is, what changed her expectations? Our expectations are the image of our own wisdom and ignorance. Therefore, Swarved preaches us to know the thing as it is. In 4th canto, 4th chapter, 3rd couplet, Swarved says, जो वस्तु जैसा रहे तैसा वाको जान, रूप बोध निर्भ्रांत है संशयहीन सज्ञान. This Swarved says that we must strive to know the thing the way it is. Only when we hold no doubts nor any contrary understanding of the thing, we are in position to set the right expectations around that. Expecting lasting happiness out of transient one and momentary pain out of lasting one would only lead to a big shock eventually. Therefore, the takeaway from this couplet, this beautiful couplet, is that before setting our expectations, we must understand the person or thing and the nature of our relationship with them very well. We must know that our relationship or experience cannot stay the same with a thing that is transient by itself. If our happiness is based on a transient relationship and not on something very eternal, it is just a matter of time before we outcry in disappointment. In fourth canto, fifth chapter, the 23rd couplet from Svarved opens up on the transient and eternal nature of happiness so that we make right expectations with things in life. Svarved says, क्षण आवे क्षण जात है माया जग सुख रंग नित्य सहज सुख कौन है जामे रह एक ढंग. The happiness out of anything in this world is very transient in nature. You feel happy of a thing, and very next moment it flips its side to show its bitterness. The joy of the thing comes and goes in no time. If so, is it wise to spend entire life expecting happiness out of only transient matter? Or it is more so important to find where lies the true happiness that is eternally blissful and always available in the same form. In this couplet, Svarved clearly underlines all transient matter to be considered as temporary and must not set expectations there to get lasting happiness out of them. At the same time, it also directs us to ponder about the eternity of our own consciousness that we are. We are eternal. This body perishes, but we do not cease to exist. We just change our body. If we are eternal, we must find the eternal source of happiness, after attaining which expectations take the side corner. It becomes just meaningless. So says Svarved in 31st couplet of 5th chapter of 4th canto. Svarved says, चाह गई चिंता गई आश वासना नाश जीवन मृत्यु झेल है अस सुख संत निवास. After attaining the supreme bliss of all pervading consciousness, all the worries, expectations, and temptations come to an end completely, as if you have happened to finally find what you had always been in pursuit of. After attaining the union with supreme bliss, a Vihangam yogi also commands over life and death. He establishes himself in the bliss of immortality in such a way that life and death is just a willful play for him. What exists with such saint is the bliss and only bliss. The underlying message in this couplet is to know the eternal and conscious self that we are and adopt the science of consciousness, not only to know what a conscious soul you are, but also to learn how the forgotten you can reunite with the eternal bliss, the only bliss that alone can satiate the soul that we are. Jai Sadgudev. Over to you, Abhinavji.
Thank you, Vijayji, for this wonderful explanation. The knowledge and the depth of Svarved. Indeed, as we go through the years, we start to understand the process of setting expectations is invariably aligned with an effort to extract, understand, and apply truth to our view of the world and those around us. A short reminder to one and all, we have 2 avenues available upon which you may ask any questions you have. The WhatsApp number, which is coming on the screen now, the Slido URL, which will be coming to you in just a moment too, slido.com/VYGOS. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll be going through each question we receive later in the session today. We now move towards the main speech of the day. Born in India and raised in Australia, Priyanka Prakashji is a data analyst by trade working for the Australian government and an authorized instructor, practitioner, seeker, and aspirant of Vihangam Yoga at heart. Today, we're honored to be joined by her. She will be taking us deeper into this topic of managing expectations, something which we all seek to understand and seek to apply in a more meaningful and informed way in our day-to-day lives. I'll now hand over to Priyanka ji to take us deeper into this topic, after which we'll proceed towards the other parts of our session.
Jai Sadgurudev, everybody. I would like to start by saying how privileged I feel to be able to be a part of this valuable online satsang community. As has been mentioned earlier, today I will be talking about managing expectations. This is a topic quite close to my heart, and today I will be talking about how important it is to manage our expectations and how this can allow us to connect with our inner conscious to ultimately live as a true and divine expression of ourselves. To start with, I would like to delve deeper into the word expectation. What does it mean? How has it evolved over our lifetime? And why is it important we manage such expectations? Furthermore, I would like to highlight that we can only manage our own expectations, as this is something only we have control over. Expectation, from the Latin word expectere, is to have a hope or strong belief for something to happen in the future. From the day we are born into this world, through to early childhood years and into adulthood, our expectations of ourselves evolve. I use the word evolve for a very good reason. The Surved states that as soon as we as divine spirits enter this world, we are accompanied by our mind or man. As is said in the Doha, Mana mare mana jita hai, pangu atma hoy, gati pant sansar ka, pangu kavana vidhi hoy. The practitioner becomes a master of the man once the man is overpowered. During this process of detachment, the knowledge of soul does not align with the outward worldly perceptions. In fact, it stays within. Therefore, the soul becomes stable. This soul cannot become stable if worldly ways are followed. Therefore, with the help of meditation, at a particular level, the outward energy of man can be directed towards the inside. Thereby, man becomes calm and peaceful. This mind, or man, is what allows for us to connect with this world, as it builds a perception of everything around us. It builds a perception of the relationships we have with people, and it even builds a perception of who we are, how we should behave, react, respond, all through the dimension of time. I refer to time because it is through our past experiences that we modify self-perceptions. Therefore, we can say that our perception of time and our expectations are very closely linked. This is key to understanding how we can manage expectations. There is, however, another great contributor to our evolving perceptions, and that is based on how we perceive ourselves in relation to other people. we become so attuned to perceiving ourselves through others' eyes that we move further and further away from the divine being that we are. We lose insight into our own capabilities and our own capacities. Our perceptions then generate expectations, usually manifested as actions, goals, achievements. But most of the time what we are generating are destructive thoughts that steal the energy of our spirit. Earlier, I briefly mentioned about how our past experiences shape our expectations. However, it's really important to understand that our expectations are usually projections into the future. In other words, they are our hopes and our strong beliefs in the future holding our salvation and our happiness. How many times have we heard ourselves, or others for the matter, say things like, when such and such happens next year or tomorrow, then I will be happy, then I will be stronger, then I will be free. It is our mind which deludes us into believing that the more expectations we have into the future, the more hope and joy we will feel. I would like to take a moment here to quote one of my favorite authors, Eckhart Tolle, who is a spiritual teacher. He says that time and mind are inseparable. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. The compulsion to live almost exclusively through memory, past, and anticipation, future. This creates an endless preoccupation with past and future, and an unwillingness to honor and acknowledge the present moment and allow it to be. The more we are focused on time, the more we miss the present, the most precious thing there is. My friends, the problem is not in having low or high expectations. That is not what my talk is about today. It's not that simple. It's not a formula of 1 + 1 = 2. The problem is when we find that our expectations are not usually aligned with the reality of the present moment. It is then that we experience disappointment or the delusion of failure or fear. Of course, this is a completely normal human reaction. But that's the thing, it's a reaction. It's not a response to the present moment at hand. This misalignment of expectations is perceived as a threat to the mind. When we feel threatened, we do not respond. We tend to react or we fight. Most of the times, these reactions are manifested as destructive thoughts. This is a continuous cycle that has no end as long as we are identified with our mind. My friends, our mind can only exist and can only generate expectations by clinging onto time. That is the past and the future. So the key to managing expectations lies deeper within ourselves. It's beyond the mind, and it's outside of the past and future. It in fact lies in the present moment. The more we become aware or conscious of the mind-generated expectations, the closer we can move towards the present moment. And it is in the present moment that we can truly analyze the situation and adjust our expectations accordingly. In other words, we're aligning our expectations. This can help us to develop a deeper feeling of peace and contentment. The deeper we move within ourselves, the closer we are to understanding our true capabilities and our capacities. And most importantly, embracing our true capabilities and capacities in the present moment. Then, when our expectations are sourced from this understanding, we are unlikely to feel the disappointment of not meeting them, because we've changed our underlying perception of ourselves. We have moved from a state of unconsciousness to a state of consciousness. To move from a state of unconsciousness, also known as identification with the mind, into a state of consciousness, deep awareness, we can practice the ancient teachings of meditation, known as Vihangam Yoga. This universal knowledge, this Brahma Gyan, has been mentioned in the Vedas as well. The founder of Vihangam Yoga, Sadhguru Sadafal Deoji Maharaj, guides us into this spiritual realm deep within us. In the Swarved, Sadhguru says, Mana marte indriya mare, antara kamala suvas, lakshya shanta stira rahe, chetana anubhava bhas. When Chetan Drishti, or the conscious aura of the Supreme Soul, appears, the 8 energy points inside the body blossom upward like a lotus flower. It is the fragrance of this blossoming that ends the destructive state of the mind and the influence that it has on the spirit. In other words, the practitioner enters into a state of no mind. After the mind is calm and dissolved, with the help of Sadhguru, the Chaitanya Brahma Prabha, known as the conscious aura of the Supreme Soul, starts manifesting inside the practitioner's soul. Sadhguru helps us to move from the unconscious state to a conscious state of being through the practice of Vihangam Yoga meditation. It is when we are in this state of consciousness can we truly understand what our capabilities and capacities are. We are then able to develop realistic and true expectations of ourselves. Being in a state of consciousness allows us to develop a greater understanding of our expectations and helps identify when such expectations are misaligned with the reality of the situation. We are then better equipped to manage our expectations and develop a dynamic relationship with the world. My friends, if there is one thing I request you to take away from today's talk, it is understanding that managing expectations is about aligning your capabilities, your capacities with your expectations and responding consciously to the present situation. The journey to understanding your true capabilities and capacities cannot be understood at the level of the mind. For this, you need to delve deeper within yourselves to discover your true power, your essence of being. This is a continuous process, much like training your muscles at the gym. You are essentially learning a new pattern of mindful behavior. I hope I have created an opportunity for you to unlock your true capabilities and both manage and develop healthy expectations in your life. With this, I would like to say thank you so very much for listening, and I conclude. Jai Sadhguru Dev.
Thank you, Priyanka ji, for this very deep introspection into the topic of managing expectations. We are all the more informed and equipped to better monitor, understand, and align our expectations. As Priyanka ji explained, by better addressing our expectations, we can avoid the biggest trap of the mind: to spend, dissipate, and project our energy, as she so wonderfully explained, beyond the present into either the unknown future or the forgotten past. I'd like to extend my thanks once more to Priyanka ji. As it's famously said, live in the past and you'll feel frozen. Live in the future and you'll feel submerged in the unknown. Live in the present and you'll feel empowered. Vihangam Yoga is one of the most ancient and strongest ways in which we can align our energy and consciousness with the present. Thank you once more to Priyanka ji. We now move towards a bhajan, followed by our Q&A session. As I mentioned earlier, please do share any questions or thoughts you have on Slido or WhatsApp. The Slido link is coming up just now on the screen, slido.com/VYGOS, and our WhatsApp number is coming up on the screen just now. I'd now like to hand over to Sankalpji, who is joining us from India, to share a bhajan with us.
Thank you, Abhinav ji. Jai Sadgurudev to all. ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, नहीं तो फिर पछताएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, नहीं तो फिर पछताएगा। तू कहता है मेरी काया, काया का गुमान ही क्या। तू कहता है मेरी काया, काया का गुमान ही क्या। चांद सा सुंदर ये तन तेरा, मिट्टी में मिल जाएगा, मिट्टी में मिल जाएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, फिर पीछे पछताएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, तो फिर पछताएगा। वहां से क्या तू लाया बंदे, यहाँ से क्या ले जाएगा। वहां से क्या तू लाया बंदे, यहाँ से क्या ले जाएगा। मुट्ठी बांध के आया जग में, हाथ पसारे जाएगा। फिर पीछे पछताएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, नहीं तो फिर पछताएगा। बाल्यापन में खेला खाया, आई जवानी मस्त रहा। बाल्यापन में खेला खाया, आई जवानी मस्त रहा। बूढ़ापन में रोग सताए, खाट पर आ पछताएगा। फिर पीछे पछताएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, फिर पीछे पछताएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, नहीं तो फिर पछताएगा। समझ सके तो समझ ले बंदे, आखिर को मिट जाएगा। समझ सके तो समझ ले बंदे, आखिर को मिट जाएगा। कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, करनी का फल पाएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, नहीं तो फिर पछताएगा। ज्ञान गुरु का ले बंदे, नहीं तो फिर पछताएगा। सदगुरुदेव की जय। Over to you, Abhinavji.
Thank you for this beautiful bhajan, Sankalp ji. There's so many feelings and thoughts welling up inside of me. Thank you with the deepest gratitude. This particular bhajan is extremely close to each of our hearts. As we heard earlier, we must understand where our energy and consciousness are situated in order to best move forward on the path of managing our expectations and progressing spiritually. To do this, the knowledge of the Master is the only solution and the only light which can take us away from darkness. Indeed, Gyan Guru ka lele bande. Dear seeker, align yourself with the knowledge of the Master. Nahi to fir pachitayega. Otherwise, one day you will feel at a loss. We now move toward the Q&A session, where we look toward the questions and thoughts which you each have about our topic of the day. That topic being managing expectations. To take us through this is Dr. Hemant Ji. Hemant Ji is an associate professor at IIT Bombay in the Department of Earth Sciences. He formerly worked as a scientist at the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, USA, and most importantly and most humblingly, he is a practitioner, authorized instructor, and inspiration for us all on this platform in the context of Vihangam Yoga. So I hope you can hear my voice clearly, Hemanji.
Yes, very much. Thank you very much, Abhinavji, for having me here.
No worries. Thank you for joining us, Hemanji. So I'm seeing some great questions coming through. I'd like to put this first one to you, which is a question which we all, I think, have as we move forward on the spiritual path. The question which the seeker is putting to us is, why do we expect that we shouldn't have any physical needs, desires, or expectations? Can't we just expect that my mortal expectation dies? So I'd like to put that to you. Maybe you can talk us through the idea of physical expectations and how spirituality and spiritual thought looks at it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, it's a very good question. First of all, I would like to thank Priyanka ji for giving us to set up the platform, and she has basically said a bit about this question, where we talked about expectations. We expect a lot of things from the world. We aspire for many things, but if we don't achieve or meet our expectations, we are at loss, as you just mentioned. And if we don't align ourselves, within inner, deeper selves, which is beyond mind, then we again could be at loss. First thing, I beg to differ here. The worldly expectations, they aren't bad. If you have aims and aspirations to achieve something in this world, that's absolutely not bad. And we need to put efforts to humongous efforts at times. It depends upon what you want, what you're expecting, and what you want to achieve in your life. So that's fine, and that's correct also. And we should actually put in our best to actually achieve that. But then spirituality looks at a little different. Sadhgurudev says, "Man maya marti nahi, nahi vasana nash. Yah sarir mari mari gaya, kar maya man nash." And then Swarved also mentions, Asha manasa nahi mare, mari mari dhare sharir, man mat man ki vasana, mar jive koi dheer. So there's no wrong in aspiring for worldly desires. Why? Because we're living in a practical world. We all have desires. We all want to live a better life. We all want joy and happiness. We all want to be satisfied in our life, with our job, with our family, with our businesses, and they should prosper at all moment. We don't want to be at loss. We don't want to get dejected. So everything is fine, but what in this pursuit of life, what we often forget is that the Lord has given us the precious breath, and that precious breath has a bank balance. Every morning when you get up, you have been given certain amount of breath, which becomes zero at midnight, and then again when you get up, you again are filled with the bank balance. And one fine day that you lose that, and one fine day you all this precious breath is consumed up, and you have nothing to work with, and you finally say goodbye to this world. Even Albert Einstein once said that all those who have ever come to this world and felt that uh, they would do wonders for this world, and they would do unbelievable work, have all perished with time. So what spirituality is trying to address here is that we should not just get engrossed in pursuit or relentless pursuit of desires, aspirations, and expectations. But as Priyanka ji mentioned, we really need to dive deeper inside ourselves and look for something which will not just give us some transient happiness or short-lived happiness which we get from our worldly expectations, because with time our expectations also change. When we were a child, we were mostly confined to something which would give us immediate happiness as a child. But as you grow, your desires and your expectations change, and then it's endless. So when are you going to stop and think in this world which is full of temptations? So we really need to think about it, and spirituality says that there's something beyond mind, and we need to connect within ourselves. And how to connect ourselves, that's what's important, and that's what we heard in the bhajan, that, and as you just mentioned, that we need to find the master who would help us to connect within ourselves. So definitely spirituality has a deeper meaning here. Thank you, Abhinavji.
Thank you, Hemantji. And there's actually, it's, thank you for that answer. I think it's actually leading us really well into a couple of other questions that are coming through. So I'll try and put two of these questions together and place them to you. One of them is, Ikcha is supposed to be one of the properties of the soul. How is the expectation of the soul any different from the expectation of the mind, if at all? Another seeker is asking, what is the difference between asha, expectation, and ikcha, desire, if any? So I'd like to request you, Hemantji, to maybe touch on these two things about ikcha as a property of the soul. Is it different from expectation of the mind? And the difference between asha and ikcha.
And that's a very wonderful question. And I think Priyanka ji just definitely touched this topic when she quoted Eckhart Tolle in a talk where Eckhart Tolle himself, who had been avid traveler, had been introspecting about his life, who had been thinking and a bit of meditation also, where he was trying to understand the level of mind or level of consciousness and subconsciousness. That's how the world looks at things. But in spirituality, every question is very distinct. It's very clear. Every meaning is very clear. It's transparent. And as you definitely mentioned, soul, the property of the iksha or the desire, is an eternal property of the soul. Gyan, Iksha, and Prayatna, the knowledge, desire, and the ability to take an action, is the eternal properties of the soul. While when you just aspire for something, it's mostly confined to the worldly desires. When we think about from our perspective of mind, it's the point is I'm trying to make here is that When we talk about spirituality, it's all about connecting to our inner selves, to our soul. But when we talk about the world, when we want to apply the same thing to the world, anything that the soul even desire that's eternal has to come through the mind, because the soul is conscious in the mind, and the body is inert and this world is inert. And the way to connect the inner self, which is the soul, which is conscious, to this inert world, there has to be a bridge, because soul is antimatter and this world is made of matter. So the soul, so we need a mind, and mind is something which has the property or a dual property of connecting to you, and it can also connect to the world. And so whatever you desire can be met or can be at least achieved with the help of the mind. Now, the trick here is that the mind needs to be controlled. Otherwise, there will be endless expectations. Now, if the mind is not controlled, then we can move in any directions, and we will have ashas one after the other. For instance, Swamiji says that asha ka ghira bana, manasa bandh janjeer, amit janma bandhan raha, jiva koi lag na tir. So we have been having aspirations through the level of mind. Why? Because again, as I just mentioned, that we want to achieve something in our life which would give us happiness. But then that has been happening from ages, from births after births. And this is never going to stop until we really get into spirituality. Because this world is full of bhogas, as we're saying, the pleasures that we enjoy at the level of senses. And that does not give us happiness. And again, I want to quote Priyanka ji mentioned that that's the mind's delusion, that if today or tomorrow, if we meet something, if we get our expectations, or if we achieve something, we'll be happy, we'll be free. Spirituality says we'll not be free. We are bound. We're in a bondage. We are led by karmas, and karmas are actions that are done by this body and again governed by the mind. And we need to reap the benefits or reap the fruits of our actions. Good actions will give you good fruits. Bad actions, as we know, lead us into trouble, problems. We have happiness. And worst, if we don't meet our expectations, there'll be anger, frustration, negativity, suicidal tendencies, whatnot. Solutions to all of this problem is spirituality, looking the same thing through the soul. And I just want to say something here again, that when we say desires from the soul only needs happiness. We never at any moment of our life want unhappiness, dejections, frustrations, anytime, any moment. Now, because we had been living in the land of immortality before we came to this world, we had enjoyed that bliss which was eternal. Because of our agyanta, or we don't understand anything, because of our delusion at some level, we have come to this world. And now we are seeking the same pleasure in this world. But unfortunately, the happiness which you get from the worldly objects are short-lived, are momentary. So it's not going to give the eternal bliss. And in this delusion and the cycles of the way the mind, because the moment you open your eyes in the morning, the mind takes you into this world. You're interacting with this world. And your energy is getting dissipated, disseminated. It's getting lost. We need to conserve it. We need to put a dam in front of a river so that we can channelize the energy that is flowing. We need to control it. We need to harness the power within ourselves. We need to revive ourselves. We need to reconnect with ourselves. That is what spirituality looks at it. That's what makes the difference between the mind's desires and the soul's desire. So we need to think, and how do you get this knowledge? The knowledge is important here. The wisdom is important here. And how do you get that? You need to seek a master, and that master is Sadguru. Until you meet the Purna Guru, the complete Guru, until the Lord Almighty blesses you and helps you seek that master, you are not going to get the wisdom. And until you get that wisdom and knowledge, you're not going to perspire or help, or you will not be able to seek that. the technique, the practice, which many practitioners have done, and they've actually gone beyond the mind's delusion, and they have actually achieved the happiness, and not outside in this world, within yourself. The contentment, the satisfaction is within yourself. You just need a master to help you connect with it. So, Abhinavji, that would be take from my this question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hemantji. That was a very comprehensive explanation of something which we all seek to understand. And I'll put one last question to you in the last 2 to 3 minutes we have allotted for our Q&A, which is two seekers are asking how we can think about our expectations in our daily lives. One of them asks, how do we manage our schedule as a practitioner of Vihangam Yoga and a casual life consumer? Another seeker is asking, how can I best sanity check my expectations day to day? How can I stop myself when I feel like I'm spiraling out of control? So I feel both questions are slightly related. I'll put it to you, and then after your answer, we'll go towards the Shanti part and the wrap up.
Yeah, that's a very nice question, because I think it's related to all of us. We are living in a life where we have to attend to the worldly matters, trivial matters every day, and so it's important to understand our daily aspirations. How do you manage that? It's actually easy, not difficult. Vihangam yoga comes with 5 levels of meditation. The very first level of meditation is to control the mind. How to control the mind, what's the science behind it, the technique itself, the procedure, the methodology can be learned with the help of the authorized instructor of Vihangam Yoga. But how are we going to manage the daily aspirations? If your mind is controlled, not only you would be more focused, you would be aligned with expectations. You're going to, let's say if you have only certain hours of day to work on something you want to aspire or desire for, you are going to use that complete hours for that work only. Why? Because your mind is not distracted anymore. It's not getting deviated. You're not losing energy. Today, the doctors and medical practitioners says that our mind is getting distracted so much that 80% of our energy is getting lost in something other than what you would want to do. And that applies to anything. You're working, you're in a meeting, you're cooking, and suddenly you're lost in thought. And most of the thoughts are nothing but unnecessary thoughts. Constant chit chat that your mind is consumed, and most of them are nothing but creating more of problems inside you. It creates tension, depression, anxiety of something, whether you're going to get that what you're aspiring for, or you would not get that. So most of them are basically, again, the delusions of mind. So how are we going to get rid of that? To control it. And we've seen, as I mentioned some time back in one of my talks, is that the moment you start controlling your mind with Vihangam Yoga practice of level 1, you would see the prefrontal cortex of your brain becomes more active. And that's where you see that your negativity thoughts, your alpha waves gets enhanced by 5 times, and your theta waves goes down, the delta waves goes down, which basically triggers the tendency of negative thoughts. So if you want to manage your daily expectations, you really need to control your mind. And of course, with that, you are going to grasp things more and faster. You're going to learn things faster. So you're going to achieve more. So efficiency and productivity goes higher. So for that, we need to understand that we need to control our mind here. So it's better to seek the master and learn the technique, and just 10 minutes of morning and evening practice daily will help you. So just investment of 20 minutes per day will actually give you a lot in return, much more than what you've invested. So that's what I would think at this level. Thank you, Abhinavji, for having me here.
Thank you so much, Hemantji, for joining us today. I think, first of all, thanks to Priyanka ji for giving us such a great introspection into this topic. And then, of course, Hemantji for giving us even more specific answers to some of the questions our seekers have. So I'd like to now go towards the wrap up of our session. To do that, we first will play the Shanti part, after which I will attempt to do justice to the amazing thoughts we've heard today and summarize what we've learned. So I'd now like to ask for the Shanti part to be played after we go towards our wrap up.
विराग त्याग की शांति हो, उदासीनता शांति, सेवा जित शिष्य शांति हो, सत्य शांति हो शांति। हे प्रभु शांति स्वरूप हो, शांति शांतिमय शांति, शांति शांति जन शांति हो, पूर्ण शांतिमय शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व अशांति, देव सदा फल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व अशांति, देव सदा फल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति।
We started our journey today asking ourselves, how can we better manage our expectations in life? From the Swadved, we heard that to manage our expectations, we have to go towards the path of truth. Priyanka then joined us. After the recitations by BJG, Priyanka joined us and explained to us how we have to distinguish between the past, the future, and where we actually exist, which is the present. Heymanji then gave us a very deep exploration into some of the questions which you all have about this topic. At the crux of all of this, and sort of related to what Heymanji alluded to near the end, is that Vihangam Yoga changes the way we perceive things. Indeed, the idea, the question of how reality is perceived is something which even modern science has not yet understood. In fact, Vedic philosophy and the words of the Vedas, the words of our rishis, they have not been falsified yet, even by modern science. And what does this tell us? It tells us that the ancient wisdom of spirituality helps us perceive reality in a different way. And why is this? The concept of spirituality, of energy, of consciousness, of time, they equip us to better understand how to align ourselves with the world. There are entire branches of science being spinned up to understand how Vihangam Yoga meditation helps us perceive reality in a more positive way. If you're interested, do reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to share some of the research being done, whether it be the field of phenomenology, which is trying to understand subjective experience, or the field of neuroquantology, where people are trying to understand how, on a quantum level, the firing of neurons and the entire system of the brain helps us perceive reality in a specific way. As we start to delve further into spirituality and we look at how we perceive things, things like managing expectations, as Priyanka explained to us, as Vijayji explained to us, as Hemaji explained to us, becomes a matter of aligning ourselves towards a higher form of energy. I hope that everyone who joined us today, all of you wonderful listeners and viewers, were able to take away some key things today. As Priyanka said to us, the key questions we have to ask ourselves are, is where am I right now? Where is my energy being spent? Am I in control? What are my expectations? Why am I expecting those things? Can I do anything to control myself better? And when we come to this last question, we start to invariably seek the master of spirituality, the universe, and life itself. So I hope you all got something from today, and let's reconvene in a week on this wonderful platform, Vihangam Your Global Online Satsang. My name is Abhinav, and with that, I'd like to sign off for today. Thank you, and Jai Sudev.